So I'm about to start on a very, very special project, and I want to share it with you. And I'm under a huge time crunch, but it's just that special project that I've got to get her done. And this is like my last chance. You'll see what I mean. All right, so this is so special. My grandmother tatted, and I didn't learn from her, but I did learn from her materials that I inherited through my aunt. I inherited that stuff, like my aunt gave that stuff to me back when I was getting married, because I made the tatted belt on my wedding dress, and that's a whole nother story. But that's how I learned to tat. That's why I learned to tat, is make that tatted belt on my wedding dress. Now, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I received a package in the mail, such a sweet package, and I went through it. I read the card for my aunt, and just like, here's some goodies that I found up in the attic. She was cleaning stuff out or whatever, and here's some other goodies. And I kind of like, it was such a hectic time. Not that things have gotten less hectic with more kiddos, but it's just, you stay hectic when you have little ones, especially when you're by yourself and you don't really have support systems and things. So I got this thing in the mail. I read through the card. I kind of like glanced over it. I put it up on a shelf, and I didn't look at it again. And I feel really bad about that. And then the whole business, the whole sewing business got started. And this room that we're in now, this room has been so many different things. But when the sewing business got started, we reorganized it again, and we repurposed this room again. And in the process of doing that, I came across this package, and I almost lost it. I came across this, and it was like, I actually went through the packages that she had sent, and like, I opened it up, and I found this baby bonnet, and it's the smallest little baby bonnet. And so it's only going to work for a newborn, and I'm only going to have one more newborn, and that's going to be in about 3 to 4 weeks. So, it actually has a bonnet that she made, as well as a little bit of lace, and they're just gorgeous. They're so, she was such a great tatter, and it's special, even if she wasn't a great tatter, which she was. It's special anyways, because it's like, this is, she created this. It's like, she made this, like, her hands were on this, like, her heart was in it, like. And it goes back to the whole sewing your legacy thing that I talk about so much. And it's so true that, a piece of her is here. So it's not quite done, though. And I don't know. I have to look through her stuff and see if I can find the pattern. So I grabbed my supplies of tatting books so I could look through my grandmother's patterns in hopes of finding the pattern for this bonnet. There is no telling how old these books are at this point. My grandmother passed about 20 years ago now, so they could easily be 50, 60, even 70 years old. Actually, some of the books have scribbling throughout from my Aunt Elisa when she was a kid. It's quite sweet and definitely reminds me of my own kiddos scribbling through some of my sewing patterns and books. I only found one bonnet and one bootie pattern, but it was for crocheting, not for tatting. So after having no luck with those patterns, I packed them up and figured my only option was to take out my magnifying lens and start counting knots. I'm just kidding, it's not that bad. But yeah, I picked up the pattern by looking at her work. So I've got a little bonnet, and I am at my office. I am down here by the tatting thread to try to see if any of the tatting thread that I have, comes close to matching this color. Because that's the first obstacle, right? Matching the color. So unfortunately, the closest match from our inventory of new tatting thread was just too far off in color. But luckily, I've acquired a small collection of vintage DMC tatting thread, which just so happens to be a much closer match in color. I also like the nostalgia of using DMC tatting thread since it's no longer being produced, and it could have easily been found in my grandmother's stash. As you can see, the colors are close but a little off. Perhaps time has left its mark on the thread. What's more of a difference, though, is the size. The DMC tatting thread is size 80, and the fiber my grandmother used is larger than that. And the more I look at it, it kind of looks like a coordinate thread instead of a tatting thread. It has those sort of twists and has a little bit of a stretch to it that coordinate has. Of course, the only coordinate I have is white and much, much too large.
Alright, so DMC tatting thread it is. I know I only need to have one shuttle as opposed to a shuttle and a thread and a ball, whatever, since the bit that's left are only made out of loops. There's no straight bits in this part of the pattern. But alas, I have kiddos and other commitments, so for now, this is going back in its travel bag, and I'll come back to it sometime. I haven't tatted in quite a while, so I'm trying to remember how to do this. I wrap my thread around my grandmother's, and I don't want to sound cheesy or anything, but talk about sewing being a way to connect the generations. Well, this is quite a literal interpretation of that. I do a few stitches wrapping them around her thread, and now I've secured things and I'm off to finishing this bonnet. After some squints and some meticulous counting, I figured out the pattern, but my mind keeps wandering. Who was she making this bonnet for? And when? And why did she begin making this bonnet? And is this a pattern that she learned from a friend or perhaps created herself? I can't help but wonder what the story is behind this bonnet. It crosses my mind that she might have been making it for her children, but that's pretty odd because it wasn't finished. She was definitely a go-getter, and it seems like it would have been finished in time for her children to wear the bonnet. So maybe she had it in mind for her grandchildren, but again, it seems like it would have been finished since I remember her being very active. Perhaps she was really thinking about her great-grandchildren, but passed away before being able to finish it. So, could I be completing it for the generation that she had intended it for? What a crazy thought is that? So over the course of a few nights, I finished this little bit of tatting and connected it to the other side of the bonnet. And the bonnet is now complete, and there is so much symbolism here, and I couldn't be more proud to connect the generations and maintain a legacy. It's just such an honor, you know? Alright, so the bonnet is done. Yay. And I'm going to make a little outfit so I can incorporate this piece of lace that my grandmother made. And there's also this little bootie, but there's only one of them. So with everything else going on, I've got 4 sew-along baby gowns for the summer. I'm not sure when this video is going to be released in relation with all of those, so you may or may not have seen them already. If not, they're coming. And then I also have my heirloom starter kit, which is going to be released. Yeah, that's Daisy helping in the background. So my heirloom starter kit is going to be released sometime in all of this mix. There's a lot going on right now, and I've been super MIA on social media and stuff. There's just a lot going on. Anywho, so I'm trying to make an outfit to incorporate this little piece of lace, and I do have a tiny bit left. It's perfect for a little baby yoke or something left of this dotted Swiss that I used for Henry's birthday garment this last year. It's just exquisite stuff, and the color just looks so nice next to the two, right? It's like, love it when a plan comes together. So I'm using this newborn yoke for my baby layette pattern. This yoke truly does fit a newborn, and it will be too small for an average size 3-month-old. I really wanted to go this route as opposed to a roomy newborn gown, since the size is part of the memory for me, you get to look back and remember that your child really was that small when they were a newborn. That little bit of lace fits better around the neckline than under the yoke. It's a little too long for under the yoke, and I really don't want to cut into it. So I will hand sew that onto the neckline once the dress is complete. Now to figure out another piece of the puzzle, the sleeves. I'm digging through my odds and ends collection of lace, and I really need to organize this better, but this is some of my most treasured laces, since many of them were gifted to me through various sewing friends over the years, with about 80% or so coming from a dear friend of mine that I met while we were living in Savannah, and I still talk to her today, and I miss her dearly. Seriously, sewing is so much more than sewing. So I arranged some ecru laces to use as a little sleeve, and attaching them with some entredeux makes for a lovely transition in my opinion. Although I only have baby entredeux in white right now, so I really need to give that a little tea bath first. Truthfully, the entree stayed in the tea bath a little longer than I was hoping, and that is a whole nother story. So it's a little bit on the dark side, but I think it looks better than the white with the other laces and fabrics. Alright, so on to that skirt, and we are almost finished with this baby gown. So I'm here in my office. I'm over 40 weeks at this point. The gown is mostly done, and I was starting to do the hem, and then I thought, well, maybe I can incorporate my grandmother's name into this gown, and where would I put it? And the yoke is too sheer, so I thought the hem would be great. So now the hem is on pause because I want to put her name in it, and then I was like, well, let's just keep going down the rabbit hole, right? So let's try to get some of her handwriting, maybe even like her signature or something. I asked my Aunt Lisa for that, and she just gave me gobs and gobs of her handwriting. So my thought is I can take it to the computer and I can like piece it. I don't actually have, of all the stuff she gave me, she doesn't actually have like her whole signature. So my thought is I can take it to the computer and I can just piece together the letters to make up her name, and I'm going to use her maiden name and yeah, add that to the dress, because why not just add something else to the list at this point? I'm like 40 weeks and 4 days or something, so let's just do that. So I'm taking these recipe cards that my grandmother wrote and finding the letters that make up her maiden name. I also have a letter that she wrote to my cousin that I'm grabbing from, and after a little copying and pasting, I got something rough like this. Luckily, with a little help of modern technology, I can digitize this and then play around it a little, connecting the letters like I think she would have written her name. Oh, and funny accident, Daisy's middle name is also Anne. How neat is that? Anywho, so I printed off several sizes so I could see how they look on the gown's hem, and ended up with the smallest size, about 3/8 of an inch tall. So I used a size 30 cotton embroider in blanc, and it was just perfect when crouched down. Did I just make a verb? I'm not sure if couched is the correct grammar or even if I'm saying that right, but you get my drift. Like I'm using the couching technique, which again I'm probably mispronouncing, and I couched the cotton embroider down. Anywho, so then I finished up her name by going over the cotton embroider with some silk floss and a satin stitch. So next up, I need me some ribbon. So I take this silk entree ribbon from another dress. That's the only entree silk ribbon I had in this small size, so it'll work and I will replace the ribbon on the dress later. After hand-stitching the lace around the neckline, hem into place, and closures, we had a finished gown. I took the other piece of silk ribbon to use for the bonnet. This poor dress. I promise I will replace these pieces of ribbon later. And we had ourselves a completed newborn outfit, complete with a newborn tatted bonnet, newborn gown, and a newborn bootie. We just needed, well, a newborn. I know, that's how I feel too, Everly. Well, clearly that did not fit. Everly is a tad on the big side, but it didn't come anywhere close to fitting. So it is a bit of a bummer, but I'll try to redo it and, for a little one in 20 or 30 years. It does remind me, though, of this topic about documenting your special projects, and I've been trying to document my special projects since before Audrey was born. I kept up with it, decently while I just had one, but now it's just like I try to document things on my phone as best as possible and through emails of where I've gotten fabric and things. And one day when the kiddos are older and things have settled down a little bit, I will go through and I will kind of catch it all up. This is not at all what I meant for this video, but segue into something I've been working on for documentation to make it easy for people, because I do think it's really important for instances like this to document your special stuff so your family knows, what you're thinking and the story behind it and the materials and all that sort of goodness. So I have been working on something. It's really close to being done. I should just button it up and there's a couple pieces left. But anyway,
document your special stuff. And yeah, we have our fourth and final baby. It is super bittersweet for me. I know it's the right decision, you know, to stop at 4 for us, but I've had moments, Everly is now 5 days old, and I've definitely had moments where I'm like, I'm nursing her, but I've definitely had moments where I'm like, just trying to soak it all up, because it's our last one. So it's exciting, it's bittersweet, it's like all the emotions, all the feels. I'm like going all through it right now. So any rate, I've got a ton of stuff coming down the pipelines. I've kind of been MIA for the last 3 weeks, just working on a ton of different projects and a ton of different videos. So I look forward to sharing everything with y'all. Hope everything is going well with everybody. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one, guys.